Welcome to the Collecting the Past podcast. Funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities and in partnership with the Flannery O'Connor Institute for the Humanities, this project paired students from Georgia College with community members to collect oral histories from individuals who either lived in Milledgeville during the heart of O'Connor's writing career or whose lives were shaped by events that took place during this period. Our goals with the project are to expand the existing historical narrative of our town by documenting unwritten life stories and creating a public digital archive. As you'll hear, the students had fun creating their own podcasts in the style of their choice. Like our narrators, each episode has its own personality.
Okay, so my name is Aggie Markwalter. Today is April 3rd, 2024. I am here with Sandra Worsham today, here to talk about Milledgeville and just your life, history of your life. I'm so excited to meet you today. How are you doing, Miss Worsham?
I'm great. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, ma'am. I've been looking forward to this too. I'm really excited to get to know more about you today. Just to start off, I wanted to know, what was it like growing up in Milledgeville? I know you told me you were part of the boomer generation, and you said that you were born in the Richard Benyon Clinic in Milledgeville.
Uh-huh.
So what was it like growing up in Milledgeville as a child here?
Well, when you grow up, you just assume that's the way everybody's growing up. You know, you don't know. The schools were segregated, and I graduated from City Elementary School, which is right downtown, next to, it's part of GMC now, but it was City Elementary School, and we walked up to the gym at GMC. Then that was our gymnasium, and I used to love to go up there and jump on the trampoline. They had a trampoline up there. There was a train that ran from State Hospital through the middle of town. It was the only train in Georgia that had to stop at stoplight. And it stopped at the stoplight right in the middle of downtown Milledgeville, right in front of where my daddy's barbershop was. Oh. But I remember as a child my mother taking me downtown and taking me by the hand to cross that street, and we'd have to step over the railroad track going to my daddy's barbershop. And I don't know what year they took that train track up and it quit running, but City Elementary School was right there where the train track went down a little bit. And at recess, we would love to run out and wave at the engineer, and he would blow the whistle for us.
That sounds really fun. I know, when I'm driving on the interstate and all that, and at least when I was a kid, I used to look at the big trucks and kind of do this hand signal.
That,
so it reminds me of that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So living in the South too, living in Milledgeville, did you grow up doing going to church or anything like that, or any other religious organizations, or was that not
Baptist.
part?
I was baptized at 9 years old at the First Baptist Church here in Milledgeville, right across the street from Memory Hill Cemetery. And they had an organization that we called GAs. It was Girls Auxiliary, and they had I credit that with teaching me how to set goals and reach them. They had these, what they call forward steps, and you would have to progress. You'd have to do certain things to get each one. And if you got, the first one was, it's really funny right now to think about the way women's rights are and everything, to think about the way that they describe this. But first you were a maiden. Don't think about the Handmaid's Tale. And then you moved up to Lady in Waiting, and then Princess, and then Queen. And then there were two other steps that were more advanced than that my sister got. I just got up to Queen. But if you got Maiden, they had a ceremony where you it would be Sunday evening, and all the girls would wear white, and they would hold their Bibles like this, and they would process in to get their award that they had earned from all the the work they'd done. We had to memorize tons of scripture. Just, and I still remember it today. When you memorize something as a child, I know when my mother died, she could still recite all of Hiawatha and, all the poems that she memorized as a child. But if you got maiden, you got this green felt octagon that was pinned to the front of your white dress. And when you got lady in waiting, you got a gold circle that went around the outside of the octagon. I bet you I've still got it in there.
So did you have to memorize like scripture and like what other kinds of things, I guess, did you have to do to like move up in the levels from like
we had to learn all the
that?
missionaries' birthdays and
Oh,
what
wow.
the Baptist colleges were, and we had to make things with our hands, like oh gosh, I can't think of one right now. But anyway, then when you got to be queen, you got a cardboard crown put on your head.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So I got to queen, and my sister got to. Then after queen is queen with a scepter, where you get this scepter, and then queen regent, you got a green satin cape.
So that's a lot
this
of
is so
a new
funny to
a
me.
new item each level you move up, you
and
get
so
something
the whole
different.
outfit, was the white dress with this emblem on, the cardboard crown, the scepter, and the green cape. So it makes you end up looking like the Virgin Mary. But it really did teach me how to. In fact, my favorite GA teacher just died at age 100.
Oh wow, that's a She lived a good life, a long life. Yes.
And I loved her. She was wonderful. But.
Did you so was she a big influence in your life? I know you taught for like many years. Did you have any like teachers throughout your like childhood that kind of maybe inspired you to like do teaching yourself?
Teachers. Yeah, I loved all my teachers. I could name them all to you right now. And remember specific things about each one. My favorite teacher was Miss Mary Josie, in the 4th grade at City Elementary School. And she was a kind person who, made excuses for you. And every day at recess, we had this game. I would take her pocketbook and hide it from her. And it would be like under the desk or in a cabinet or somewhere. And she would play along with it. She would come in and say, "Now, what did I do with my pocketbook?" And she would start looking for her pocketbook. And I don't know, I guess she just knew that I needed that extra attention. And so she gave it to me. And she's a perfect example of, you may not remember, students may not remember what we taught them, but they'll always remember how we made them feel.
Yes. I feel like that's how maybe a lot of teachers might have started their career path anyways, is just like from maybe like being inspired by their like former teachers too. I know.
And I have a lot of students who are now teachers.
Yes.
Which I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. You said you went to like a couple of different colleges too. How was that like experience, knowing that like maybe not every like girl your age at that time might not have been able to have that same chance to like get to go to college and earn all these impressive like degrees too.
Well, it didn't cost as much then, and most of my friends in high school did go to college. Some didn't stay, some decided they wanted to get married. It's funny, a lot of the ones that got married straight out of high school are still married now. that's unusual.
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a long time. That's a good time.
But like one of my friends who graduated from high school with me went to college at the same place I did, and we were roommates. But she wasn't interested in staying in college or anything. She didn't stay, I don't think, but maybe half a year. And and I grew up in a I probably shouldn't even add this, but it's part of my life. I grew up in a home where my parents were teetotalers. My daddy was both of them were at the Baptist church every time the doors opened, and there was never anything to drink in my house, anything alcoholic to drink in my house. My daddy had a brother that was an alcoholic, and that may have had something to do with his feelings. But so when I was a freshman in college, I got in trouble because some friends and I went out. It was in Georgia Southern. Statesboro was a dry county. We went to the county line and brought some vodka back into the dorm and mixed it with Sprite, and we got caught. And so we had to write up, what we did and everything. I was on social probation my second quarter in college as a freshman because of drinking in the dorm.
Yes.
And we couldn't wear pants. We had to wear skirts and dresses.
Skirts and dresses, like to class every day
to class,
too?
Yeah. Girls could not wear pants. And so what we would do is we would have cut-off blue jeans that we would put on under a raincoat. And we'd sit in our desk. The raincoat would be, we would take our arms out of the raincoat, but it would be buttoned here. And so we would have on cut-off blue jeans, but we would have a raincoat covering it up.
So it's kind of a way to
And this is terrible. My most embarrassing moment. I would have a lot to choose from, but we had to wear dresses and skirts. So my legs were so white, and I wanted a tan on my legs. So I got this QT, it was called, Quick Tan, and it said not to rub it in. So I put it all over my legs.
Yes.
And slept all night with my legs up like this, so that, and when I woke up in the morning, my legs looked like a damn zebra. I had stripes up and down my legs. And I got Clorox and tried to scrub it off, and it would not come off until it grew off. So I wore hose hoping to cover it up.
Yes.
I won't ever put on another pair of stockings for the rest of my life. The most uncomfortable thing in the world.
Yes.
Pantyhose.
I feel like it would probably have to, you'd probably have to wait a while to, get that tan to come off, so you probably had to wear those tights for a while.
It looked like I'd been mud wrestling.
I think it's pretty interesting that y'all had a lot of those kind of rules. Do you feel like there was a lot of restrictions for being in college?
Well, a lot. You don't even know about it now. I mean, there was no such thing as a co-ed dorm. And then they would have things that got everybody all excited. Panty raids, where the boys were supposed to come in and steal.
Yes.
It was very. It's funny to me to think back now on how you had to sign out and sign in the dorm. I don't know if y'all have to do that or not, but do you stay in the dorm?
2 years ago I did. I'm in my third year now, and there's no rules about really anything these days. So
where do you live now?
I live in the Bellamy Apartments, which are
those are pretty,
They're
that was where my high school was.
Oh yeah, there's a little stone there.
Yeah, my class put that up.
Yeah, I've always wondered where every time I drive out of the gate, I'm wondering. I did not realize that there was history.
And then I went back and taught there.
Yes.
For 30 years.
Because across the street is a bus parking lot now, right? And that used to be a elementary school or something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong.
No.
It might have.
Where the Bellamy Apartments are is where the Baldwin High School was. They call it Old Baldwin now because it moved down. Now it's down.
It's a little farther
49,
down the road. Yes.
But across the street from it was Bonner Park, which had a swimming pool where those tennis courts are now. There was a swimming pool, and that was where I went to take swimming lessons. And And the woman that owned Bonner Park, Miss Bonner, when she died, she left it in her will that no black children should ever swim in that swimming pool. And they filled that swimming pool in and turned it into a tennis court. So those tennis courts used to be the swimming pool where I learned to swim. And right now they've got all those new kind of, they used to have swing sets and seesaws and all that, but now they've got those plastic, those big plastic slides and stuff that children play on.
I think they tore down the playground recently, so hopefully they're.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they did. I was on my way to class, driving to class, and I looked to my right, and I saw the playground being torn down.
Oh my!
Yes, so I'm hoping for the kids that they'll build a new park soon and create some more outdoor.
Well, it's like I told you, growing up in a segregated society. So many of my classmates are probably just as prejudiced as they ever were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of white people think this new water park they're building is going to be all black kids. They don't want to use the park, Bonner Park, because they think it's all going to be black kids. And anyway, that's something I don't like about my town.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up the same way they did because we were completely separated. McIntosh Street was the black part of town. That's where black businesses were. And all the rest of it was white. So black people were just sort of crowded in there. And,
was the Sally Ellis, Davis House, was that being used,
That would have been probably Davis Elementary School.
Okay.
Well, no, her house where she lived has been made into a museum.
Yes, it has. Yeah. I know it was used as a school at one point. I can't remember the exact year, but I know a lot of the black students in Milledgeville went there and
Davis
lived
Elementary
there too.
School, and then there was Carver Elementary School, and way back before that, I've forgotten the name of the school, but it was one that wasn't being used anymore when I came along. But some of my older black friends went there.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you do, I guess in your more teenage years, did you do anything, for fun, activity-wise? Were you always, a creative person with writing and all that, or did you ever do, any other activities like that?
I was part of a little group of girls, sort of like a little clique in high school.
Yes.
And we would all go over to Linda Winterbottom's house, and she had a basement they called the rec room, and we would put on records and dance, in her basement. I was not a party girl in high school. In fact, I was a little afraid of the party girls, who, because I didn't drink, and I always felt different. I don't know if that's for being gay or being a writer, but I didn't have a clue that I was gay back then.
Right.
My goals were get married, have children, just like everybody else's were. But my favorite things to listen to were Joan Baez and Bob Dylan.
Yes.
And I liked the other things. Oh, I will never forget. I used to had this little white transistor radio, and I listened to WLS Chicago. Dick Biondi was the person who announced, and I will never forget the first night I was in my room doing homework, and I had that little transistor radio on, and Dick Biondi introduced the Beatles for the first time. And the first song I ever heard was I Want to Hold Your Hand. And the next day at school, everybody had their album, and guys were, looking at this long hair on those boys, and it was just so exciting because the guys in my class didn't even know what their hair would be like when it grew. You know?
Always kept it short.
Yeah, and so they never let their hair grow out before. So that was exciting, you know, and then that was the musical hair.
Yes,
you
so
know,
it influenced a lot of people.
Yeah, and
like style
we
and all that.
loved the Beatles. And
Yes.
I guess that would have come along right after Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of pushed him out a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like there's a museum in our like library at Georgia College that talks about like one section of it talks about like music and that kind of thing, but I feel like it's mostly like I think like music from African American artists, because a lot of I know there's like at least one artist that was like from here that had a big influence, and so I feel like
Otis
it can have
Redding, I think, was from Macon.
I know that can have like music can have like a big influence on like culture and all that.
Well, and also I was going to tell you, my father played the steel guitar in a little band, and probably I'll show you this. It's a little politically incorrect. Let's see where it would be. Oh, it's in that other one. Anyway, during World War II, they used to give have dances,
Yes.
and they would give war bonds to people who came to the dance, and they also had minstrel shows.
Okay.
And my father, being the barber, was the one who would black people's faces. The other members of the band, they wore blackface when they would play their minstrel shows. So that's really politically incorrect now. But he was what they call the interlocutor, and he was the one. He was dressed up in a suit with a top hat on, and he was the one as the barber who would, and that was the minstrel show. So,
Okay.
but you know.
So a minstrel, like,
It's like
so
it's like a play.
it's like a
of.
play. Okay, so there's like characters and like in a way there's like kind of characters
Let
that
me
are in
get
the
this.
show.
You have to see this. I'll be right back.
It's funny. You feeling good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find where I put it. It was here it is. There it is. This is what I was looking for. Okay.
Is it a picture from one of the shows?
That was a poster advertising the Sugar Creek String Band.
An undertaker in trouble and two housewives in distress. So there would be like different little titles like
skits.
that and skits.
And now I've never seen one, but that's my daddy in the middle.
Yes.
And then these are the other people in his band. And then it says something about war bonds, I think. And look where, Haddock High School.
Is that?
I wish it had the year on there.
Is that high school still
I don't know.
running? You don't know?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like I've heard a little bit about like these kind of shows, but not a lot because of the controversies
Well, I mean, they were
surrounding it.
Yeah, they were admission 15 cents and 25 cents. Sponsored by the 9th grade, and Daddy's band was called Sugar Creek String Band then, but another. Oh, it even says Blackface Comedian Show.
Yes, it does.
Wow.
I think at the top. Mm-hmm.
I hadn't noticed that. And there's another one around here that says War Bonds. Now this would have been at the time of the sesquicentennial here in Milledgeville,
Okay.
when I would have been in kindergarten, because I rode on a float in a parade. And because the reason I know that is my daddy didn't wear a mustache, but he grew out a mustache for the sesquicentennial.
Okay. The
That would have been what's that, 100 years, sesquicentennial?
I think about 100. So was that like just a
And it was
celebration?
a celebration, and
Yes.
the men grew beards and mustaches, and I guess minstrel shows were part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, along with, we talked a little bit like about the like educational system. Do you feel like the system had like improved since like a lot or like at all since I guess the time you were like either in school or like taught high school too? Do you think like Milledgeville's education has improved at all?
That's hard to answer.
Yeah.
In 19, let me see, 72, when the schools in Georgia were forced to integrate, they put it off as long as they could get by with. Then John Milledge Academy was born, and it was a segregation academy. I taught there the first year. And did you go there? Did you grow up here?
I grew up in Augusta, Georgia,
Right.
but I've heard of John Milledge before.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it's still going, you know. In fact, I wrote their alma mater. But I did not like teaching there at all. It was so prejudiced. And I had taught 2 years in Jones County, Spanish and English. And so they thought I looked too young to teach at this newly integrated school. They thought that I would go through culture shock, which you would. I mean, if you can imagine growing
Yes.
up in a town where you never see any black people. The only black person I ever saw was Annie, who came to the house to iron those little ruffled dresses my sister and I wore. And so I didn't know any black people, and when you don't know people, then you're afraid of them.
Yeah, it was a very I'm sure it was like a big deal to have everyone like start to get
Yeah.
integrated into the schools, and like especially if you hadn't had experience talking to any black people at all. Like it is a new experience, so I'm sure it was like very like interesting seeing how like that started to work with all this like all the schools and all that, and just like in communities.
Well, what
in
they
general.
did at the beginning, this was just before I went to Baldwin how to teach. After that 1 year at John Milledge, I went to Baldwin how to teach, and they prepared the teachers, because the teachers didn't know one another. They both grew up in segregated schools, you know, and so they would like if the schools had been integrated, then Floyd Griffin, who I don't know if you're familiar with, he was a senator. Floyd Griffin, he and I would have been in graduating class together, you know. So you have a class reunion now, it's all white, you know, because they didn't go to school with us. And where was I headed with that? What did you ask me? That
I just had asked like how the if like the education system had improved, and then we like
right.
started talking about
yeah. So anyway,
things
GMC
integrated.
got strengthened, and they started adding elementary school and everything. And John Milledge had all of that too. So what they did is they took people who could afford it out of the public schools and put them into parents that could afford it sent their kids to John Milledge and GMC. And so what you end up with is like 70% black, which is what it was when I taught at Baldwin. And I just had this special affinity for my black students. I mean, I love the black culture. It's different from ours, and we don't need to pretend. They don't want us to pretend it's not different. I mean, they're colorful, they're funny, you know, and I just love running on foolishness with my black students. And that's who I see all over town who come up, Miss Worsham, and hug me, and we, you know, and so what's happening right now? I've been retired 23 years.
23 years. Okay.
So I don't know.
You're
right
not
now.
sure if it's like
When I
yeah.
retired, I know that Dr. Price, the school superintendent, is wonderful, and I think she's done a lot. But they've got a huge discipline problem because so many parents are not teaching their children how to manners,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
And so Letha taught at Oak Hill Middle School. She was a technology teacher, and she taught there for about 3 years, and she was just having really bad discipline problems. And she asked me to come and observe because I was really good with my black students that had poor language skills, you know, reading and writing, and I was really good with them. In fact, the last, say, 10 years of my career, I quit teaching all my AP classes and started taking all lower level 9th grade and 10th graders. And I loved it, and I was good at it.
Were the lower level classes like your favorite ones
Yeah.
to teach?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw the most improvement. You know, like the AP kids are going to learn no matter what. But those, I had a special technique and a way of teaching them. I mean, my kids passed the state writing test. You know, so I knew how to say things to them on their level.
Yes.
And I loved it. So
Would you say, like, I know you got an award for like teacher of the year, I think, in like 1982. Would you say that's like one of your
that's my.
Oh, it's right up there. Yes. Would you say that's one of your like biggest accomplishments or like favorite accomplishments maybe?
My biggest accomplishment in my mind was starting the literary magazine, the Rain Dance Review, at Baldwin High, and it lasting 20 years. In 1982, I got the Teacher of the Year. I was the only one that got Baldwin County Teacher of the Year twice, several years apart. But then in 1992, I got a Milken National Educator Award, which meant that I got flown to Los Angeles, California, and got to go up on the stage and get handed a check for $25,000 with no strings attached.
So they flew you out to Los Angeles? That's,
Along with 5 other teachers from Georgia.
Yes. That's
Every state, you know, had them.
They
And
had
it
to
was
do
like the Academy Awards. I mean, they just, you know, you want to take a picture of every plate of food they put in front of you because it looks so pretty. You
Yes.
know, it was just, they really, and the hotel was just out of sight. You know, it was a Century Plaza, right across from where they have the Academy Awards and everything.
So they gave the teachers the
They
luxury
really-
treatment that
they did, and
they deserved.
The entertainment
honestly, yes.
was Michael Jackson.
Wow.
And
Was
he sang, he had that bunch of children on the stage with him, and they
Yes.
sang We Are the World.
You got to. So how was that like experience getting to see like?
It was
Oh,
great.
Michael Jackson.
My sister was the funny one. She was out there because she went with me, and she was the one that went with me as my partner. And so I remember standing up on that stage and seeing my sister down there with her camera going crazy. But we were sitting close to the front, and it was Michael Jackson. He was good friends with Michael Milken,
Yes.
who is the one that, the family that had the money to award teachers. So then, in 2000, the year that I retired, I got a Governor's Award in Humanities here in Georgia for, and that was an honor. And that was because of the book, Everybody Has a Story to Tell, that my students did. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've in our class we've read like little segments of it,
Right.
and that was probably one of my like favorite readings we've done because it was interesting to see like all kinds of like different
Right.
stories about like different people here.
And a lot of stories there are from teachers who grew up in the segregated society, like me, you know. I mean, when I was a little girl, my mother would take me to Belk Matthews department store, and there would be the 2 water fountains, black and colored and white. And the white would be the tall one with the ice cold water, And the black one, the colored one they called it, would be a little short one with lukewarm water.
So
You
you've
know?
been at the shopping, like just shopping centers too, and like every place there was stuff like that.
Doctors' waiting rooms. When she would take me to the doctor, there would be a colored waiting room and a white waiting room. It was just so separate. And I remember a lot of black people heated their homes with fireplaces, and so it would give their clothes that smoky smell. And I grew up thinking that's the way black people smelled, that they smelled different from white people, and it was just because of the
like
fireplaces.
smoke. Yes. We've talked like a little bit about education and like your teaching career, but I'd love to know more about your writing career. Like, how did you like kind of get started with writing your novels and all that? Like, I know you have Going to Wings and then other like works like Patterns and such as that.
Not nearly as much as I wish I had.
Yes, ma'am.
After I retired, well, okay, the two are so connected. Teaching, writing, and writing myself you just almost can't separate them. I started out at high school teaching teaching high school. They were using a formula kind of writing. It was either a 5-paragraph theme, which you may have grown up with,
Yes.
or another formula with this other book that we used, but it was still a formula. And I went to get my 6th year at the University of Georgia, and they taught me how to teach writing the real way. And so I came to believe that there are two kinds of writing. There's school writing and real writing. Writers that are going to write for the New Yorker or the Atlantic or the Atlanta Journal or whatever don't write 5-paragraph things. They write the real way. And so I started realizing that the way I write should be the way my students write, the process. And so one day, as an experiment, and this is something I love to do as a teacher, is just experiment with my classes, you know. And so I brought a rolling cart full of short story collections into my classroom, and I told them all to choose one and just to read first sentences until that one grabbed them and just start reading, and to have their journal open beside them. And as soon as they as something that they read made them think of something that they could write, put the book aside and start writing. And I did the same thing with them. And so I started reading a little story about a doll, and it made me remember the dolls that I had growing up, and I started writing. And so then, you know, after about 10 or 15 minutes, you know, I told them, I said, this is what this story made me think of. And I read what I had written to them. And I really believe that teachers should not give students any writing assignment that they don't do themselves with the students.
So just like let inspiration strike from anything really,
From
like
reading.
any story or reading any book.
Yeah, poetry works great too. But and so we shared, you know, it's like, and we studied what is an essay. An essay is not a 5-paragraph theme.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and how an essay is actually formed for a real writer. And so I taught them, use school writing for school writing test. That's all it's for. It's got an assigned topic. You have to write it in one sitting. You know, you don't get to write a rough draft and everything. So that's sort of how I started learning to teach writing, was realizing that they learned to write the same way that I learned to write. And so that's when I started writing with my students. And for so many years, I was getting rejection letters, handwritten, from Roger Angell at the New Yorker. And I mean, they were rejection letters. I've got a scrapbook
From a
full of
publishing
them.
office? Was that a publishing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would send stories off to places that would just, I mean, I was really aiming high. And what is that, Albert? Your reach should exceed your grasp, or what's a heaven for? And so I would send them off, and I was getting handwritten. This was when I was in my 20s.
Yes.
handwritten rejection letters, but they were beautiful, and they said what they liked about my writing and everything, and from the Atlantic and Sewanee Review and Southern Review, and they were still rejection letters, but they were encouraging rejection letters, and I started collecting them into a scrapbook, my rejection letters. And then I would show that to students, that you have to learn to accept rejection if you're going to be a writer. But along the way, I got more interested in the teaching of writing than in my own writing. And so for a long time I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and write before I went to school. But I think I missed an opportunity back then because I didn't keep on focusing as much on my own writing as I did my students' writing. That's fine. I had a wonderful career, and I loved teaching writing. But then after I retired, I thought that would be my full-time job, is being a writer. But a few years went by, so I didn't. And so then I went to Bennington College in Vermont, and got my MFA in creative writing. And that's when I actually got started publishing these books. But right now I'm very aware that I have a lot less time on this earth than I have had in the past. At age 77.
Are you still working on anything at the moment? Any writings or any novels?
I'm working on it may be a novel or it may be a collection of connected stories. And my tentative title is First Cousins Once Removed.
First Cousins Once Removed? Okay.
Because my head is so full of family stories. Both my parents had, my father, there were 6 children in my father's family and 8 in my mother's family. And all of those sisters and brothers, had a bunch of children. So I've got all these first cousins, and then their children. I think they're once removed. I think that's what that is. And there's so many stories, and so I'm just rapidly trying to write them all down with the time that I have left.
Do you feel like there's a rich kind of family history there, and there's almost too many stories to tell in a way?
It almost is.
Yes.
Yeah. John Steinbeck said the best writing you'll ever do is that you do when everybody you know and love is dead and gone. Well, I've lost so many people that couldn't care less right now if I write their story, and I'll change the names and I'll use fiction techniques when I want to make the story better. But yeah, I'm really into that right now. And
did you have any inspiration from other writers, or did you ever work with anything related to Flannery O'Connor, for example, or writers like her?
The one that I remember sort of giving me a light bulb was Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And I remember reading that about the main character Mick, and it was oh, I can write about that. It was I can write about the South. I can write about Milledgeville and where I grew up, and because that sort of gave me permission. And then I started showing my writing to one of the teachers at Georgia College, not as a class, but just on the side. And she told me I was trying to copy Flannery O'Connor, but I'd never read Flannery O'Connor when she thought I was copying her. And that's just because we grew up. She grew up Catholic, but she wrote about Protestants. She had a quote, when you're a Catholic and you have this strong, this is paraphrased, but when you're Catholic and you have this strong belief, you join a convent and are heard of no more, or a monastery and are heard of no more. But if you're a Protestant and you have this strong belief, you travel all over the place getting into trouble. And that was the Man in Wise Blood. And
yes. I know, she was very...
What's your major?
I'm a history major,
oh,
yes.
Okay.
I know, she was very involved in, the Catholic Church, and you said that you grew up Baptist, but
In 1975,
Yes.
I became a Catholic
You became
convert.
a Catholic in 1975. What inspired you to like just start going to the Catholic
That's
Church?
funny.
I guess.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, sort of retracing it in my mind. And it was a number of things that all came together. One, I had a friend that committed suicide, and her belief was more in astrology than it was in any religion. And her father was one of the Hindu religions, and she would give seances and everything. And she was 20 years older than me, and I was just enamored of her because she came from New York City, and it was like this world outside of Milledgeville, Georgia, that she presented to me. And after she committed suicide, I was going through all of her belongings, and I found this little black Catholic prayer book that was so foreign to me. It talked about indulgences and the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Virgin Mary and all kinds of things that were different from the Baptist Church. And that intrigued me. And then I went to a serendipity workshop in Atlanta. That was one of those touchy-feely things where they put you in groups and you talk about your feelings and everything. Well, there was a Catholic priest in that group who had on his clerical collar. And that was the first time I'd ever sat next to a Catholic priest, or been close to one at all. And so there's something about that workshop. When I got home, I wrote him and told him I wanted to know more about what Catholics believe.
Yes.
And he ended up being a Monsignor in Atlanta, Thomas Kenny. And he sent me 2 books. One was called Christ Among Us, which taught what Catholics believe, and another was Thomas Merton's The 7-Story Mountain, which is his autobiography of his own faith. And so I just devoured those books. And then one day I went inside the Catholic Church there on the corner.
Sacred Heart? Yes.
And I went inside. What's your religion?
I went to Catholic school. I grew up
Oh, bless your
Catholic
heart.
too, yes.
I'm jealous. I wish I did. Do you have any horrible nun stories?
I do not, but my father also went to Catholic school, and he had a lot of siblings, because that's just how Catholics are.
Right.
And when he went to Catholic school, there was a lot of nuns there.
Story.
Yes.
Well, I didn't grow up with that, and I think it would have been wonderful if I had, but I love hearing stories about it and everything.
Yes, I feel like it's honestly kind of nice to find your own find your faith your own way too, and go your own path as well.
Right.
So it's really your own journey in a way, and I think that's interesting to see how different people find what faith they believe in, or find what thing they believe in general.
Well, I was so drawn to what they call the real presence, that the Eucharist really is the true body and blood of Christ. And I was in a Baptist Sunday school class at the time, and I was telling them, y'all need to go over there. I was so filled with zeal, and a new convert, and I was like, y'all need to go over there and check that out. It's really the body and blood of Christ. This is a symbol. That's really the real thing. And I still believe that, and I love that. But there's one other thing I was going to tell you. Oh, so I took that little prayer book with me when I went in the Catholic Church for the first time. And it had that incense smell, which was a foreign sort of smell to me.
Yes.
But I accidentally left that little book in the church. And so later, the priest then called me. Apparently I put my name in it, and so that drew me in. That was the first time I'd been inside a house with a priest, and I went there to get the prayer book. It's like all these things kept coming together to draw me.
To draw you to
the
going there.
Church.
Yes. I know, do you talk a little bit about faith, maybe in your book, Going to Wings? Could you tell me a little bit more about that book?
Have you read it? Have you had a chance to read it? It's okay if you haven't. I've
just read a few descriptions of it, and I know that Catholicism is a big part of the book. So I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit more about the book.
Yeah, it tells about how much I was drawn to it. And for a while, you know, in the Catholic Church, there's so many images of Jesus and Mary, and like the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and the Jesus on the cross, and the infant Jesus, and so many. It was like they were just swirling all around in my head, you know, and it was like, is this the same Jesus as the one I knew in the Baptist church? You know, and I was sort of trying to reconcile the two, that, you know, is that Jesus in the Baptist church the same Jesus as the one here in the Catholic church? And I don't know, it was just, it was so foreign to me, and I felt like that I wanted to be as close to Jesus as I could.
Yes.
And being a Catholic was what felt to me like that would be the closest I could get to Jesus. Also, at the same time, I had tried to come out to my mother and tell her that I was gay. And that afternoon was so horrible that I swore to not be gay for the rest of my life. And I decided that I wanted to be as good as I could possibly be, and to me that meant being Catholic.
Yeah, so I feel like there's always like
so I put aside
a sort of like, if you grew up like religious and you are like gay or anything of like that sort, I feel like sometimes there can be a little bit of like a stigma. So like, but I know like a lot of people use faith to like help them too. So
guilt,
and
guilt is such a huge
the guilt too. Yeah.
But anyway, so years I pretended I wasn't gay, and then, long story short, I lived with a woman who was 25 years older than me, who was just practically a saint. In fact, at her funeral, they called her a saint. You know, and she and I were one another's number one, but we were platonic. It was a platonic relationship. No intimacy involved other than a hug, and so I was able to convince myself that I wasn't gay while we were together. We lived together in this house for the last part of her life, and she died with a brain tumor. Well, after that is when I started thinking, well, maybe it's not so terrible to be gay, you know. And so I came out, went to Vermont with Letha, got married, came home. One of the parishioners told the priest, and I got fired from playing the organ. I'd been playing the organ for 25 years on Saturday nights
and they
at the
fired,
Catholic Church.
And they fired you afterwards?
So I'm one of the fired church workers. Yeah. And it was like he cut my heart out. You know, that was my way of praying. I sang the psalm every Saturday night, played the organ, and
that was your way of like showing thanks in a way, was like, or like appreciating the church.
Well, it's my way of worshiping.
Worshiping,
you know,
yes.
I just felt so close to God when I was singing the psalm and everything. And then once when he fired me, and he also told me I couldn't come to communion at that time. You know, it was like I was at a crossroads. You know, what do I do now?
Yes. So
with Letha, I tried some different Protestant churches, but her father was a Baptist preacher, and she didn't want to go. She didn't want to keep going. And I'm thinking, if I'm going by myself, is this where I want to be? And it was not.
Right.
So I went back to the Catholic Church, and anyway, became friends with Sister Janine Gramick, who is a nun, who has a gay ministry.
Okay.
And she told me that, you know, the hierarchy is not the Catholic Church, that the people are. And that's all in the book, you know, letters that she and I wrote to one another. And so I guess you probably could call me a cafeteria Catholic.
So when, in the book, so it's called like Going to Wings, I know that has to do with like the brick and like eating dinner or like lunch there maybe.
Every Tuesday.
Every
night.
Tuesday, okay.
Every Tuesday night. You can this coming Tuesday if you want to look.
Yes, ma'am.
There'll be a big group of gay women sitting around a table at the brick.
So it's just like it's a group for like community.
Oh yeah,
a little, like,
we're just great friends.
Yes.
You know, Our group has grown right now. They're probably about 21 or something like that,
Wow.
people. In Milledgeville, Georgia.
Yes.
You can believe it. And more of them in my age bracket than young. We have some young ones. We need some more young ones because somebody's got to look after all of us.
How long have y'all been like keeping this tradition of going every week to the break?
Well, they
and,
did
like,
it a
hanging
while
out?
before I became
Before you
part
started,
of it.
yes.
Yeah. And I went to the first, they would have a Christmas party every year. And I had to get up a lot of courage to go to that Christmas party. I didn't know people were going to have horns or what they were going to be like in there.
Yes.
And but then they invited me to join them at the Brick, and when they first said we call it going to Wings, I thought that was something to do with a literary symbolism, you know, like freedom or something. And they
Right.
looked at me like, nah, the wings are cheap on Tuesdays.
You know, I thought when I was researching and like looking at some of your books and like your website, I was like, oh, like it does sound like literary like symbolism, and like I guess in a way like
That's the
could
writer
kind of
in
be,
me.
yes.
Yeah.
But then I realized it was the Brick and like all that, and I think it's kind of like a cool like, I don't know, like not like a play on words, but it's like a cool double like
Yeah.
meaning in a way. Like the symbolism of it is pretty
Yeah.
funny. Yes.
Yeah, it was Peter Selgin at the college that suggested Going to Wings as the title. And,
Peter Selden.
yeah.
What does he like do at the college?
He's a creative writing
The
teacher.
creative writing teacher.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you still like? Do you do anything like with Georgia College at all, like
I
regarding
went
writing?
after when I was writing Going to Wings. My degree at Bennington was in fiction, but Going to Wings is a memoir, so it's nonfiction. And I took some courses as part of the Georgia College MFA program, just as an audit. Once you're over 63 in Georgia, you can take courses for free.
Okay.
So I took some courses for free, and I really enjoyed that. I love the students. You know, I would get to go to places, things they did with them as part of that, and I love that. And it helped me to get that book written. Right now, I don't know if you know Carrie Beth Neville, but she's a writer that's part of the creative writing program, and every Tuesday at 3:30, she has a Zoom meeting with a group of about 6 of us, where she gives us a poem and a prompt, and then we write for 30 minutes, and then we come back together and share. And that's helped me a lot. I've written some stuff I really like and
So
have sent
that's
off.
like helps your
Yeah.
like creativity like blossom a little more too. Is like
Do
doing
you write?
I feel like I also have like an English minor too, so
Oh,
I'm
good. Uh-huh.
doing a lot of a lot of writing in my classes. But I really enjoy the creative side of it, like
Right.
you've done too. I feel like it's one of the more like fun ways to write is when you get to
I hate
Make up-
academic
yeah.
writing. I hate it.
when you get to
I'm
make
not
up your
any
own
good
stories.
at it either. Yeah.
Did you like write a lot of creative writing like fun stories when you were like younger, like too, like as a little
Yeah.
kid? Yeah.
I remember my daddy was also a carpenter, and he took there was a bookshelf, and he attached a little swing down desk top to the bookshelf, and I'm sitting there in my room, and I was making up what I thought was a novel, and I started it off, chapter 1, and I was probably 9.
Yes.
Or something like that. And I remember writing some story about children that lived in the neighborhood, and their cat was going to have kittens. And
Yeah, I know like when you're in younger grades of school, like you get to you have more opportunities to do like the creative writing side of things, but like honestly now it would I wish that they kind of like kept more creative writing classes like even in college or like high school, but I feel like they get more
they've
serious.
ever really taught teachers how to teach writing. For a long time, I taught at Georgia College at night.
Yes.
Well, I would teach at Baldwin High, and then I would go teach teachers at night, and I loved doing that. And but I really don't think that they've ever really started teaching teachers to teach writing the real way, not the school way.
Yes. Yeah, but that's like with your book, essential.
On the bottom, right
This
there,
one?
the very bottom one.
Yes, essential ingredients.
Recipes for teaching writing. Everything I know about teaching and writing is in that book.
It's in that book. Yes. I feel like, honestly, it would have been helpful to like a lot of like my teachers and stuff too to like read a book like that, because I feel like sometimes creative writing can be more difficult to teach in a way.
And see, I believe all writing is creative.
Yes.
Or should be.
It should be. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have loved it if my teachers had taught, well, inventive spelling. You know what that is?
I'm not sure what is
creative spelling.
What's inventive spelling?
Children learn to write really before they learn to read.
Mm-hmm.
If you just give them a journal, pre-K, give them a journal. Well, they'll start out drawing, and then they'll start adding words to the drawing, and then they'll go on. And so if they spell out a word the way they think, they hear it in their head, let them do that for a while.
I think I've seen that before too, even like in my own experiences, like my teachers would have like asked me to draw a picture of like my parents' like their jobs, and then like spell it out, spelled them completely wrong because my dad's a lawyer and my mom's a teacher, and the spelling was off, but you know,
they go
it was
home
a good
and the
way
parents
to teach
say,
it.
"What are you teaching my child?" You know, because they don't like that. They think it's wrong. But one of the best assignments in the writing class when I was working on my 6th year that I ever had was they asked me to give a story assignment to a class of the lowest level, poorest language skills class I had. And then take up that class set of writing and to find only, he called it mining the slag heap, to write, I had to write a paper about the good things I found in those papers.
Yes.
Because what English teachers mostly do is they look at a paper, and if it's full of errors, grammatical errors and everything, they don't even see the story that's there. It's like the hunt and shoot method of grading a paper.
Yes.
You know, they just find what's wrong with it. But if I had to find what was right, there was some good stories there. And that taught me more than anything, you know, to find the good story, because the grammar is just secondary.
Yeah, that can be easily
corrected.
Fixed. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of teachers, like at least high school, like when I was in high school or like younger grades, I thought I did like I would think I did really good on an essay, and like maybe I didn't look over it enough or something, and then I got it back, and I think it was mostly like it would be like grammatical
That's
mistakes
all teachers know how to do to grade
that
a paper.
They
don't know how to grade it without
looking
that's
at
all
that
they know to
stuff.
do is look for hunt and shoot, look for grammar errors. They don't know how to find, and that bothers me, you know.
Yes, because there's a story there that they could be noticing too. Yes.
Yeah. You know, add more what I call mind pictures. So like the senses, you know, what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch is a beautiful image in here, you know, and they're not seeing that or the story.
Yes. I've kind of noticed some of like, I don't know if you would call it artifacts, but like I was looking around like on your shelves and stuff, and like looking at the dolls in here. Those like yours or like your wife's too or anything?
No, they're mine. The dolls are mine.
Because I know you had mentioned that you had dolls when you were a kid too.
Yeah,
and I think it's really cool to look at all of these.
This is Alice in Wonderland. His hair I cut off.
Oh.
Her hair is cut off because I cut it off. She had this long, beautiful hair, and I cut her hair off.
Yes.
And then I kept Tiny Tears because, oh God, when I smell of Tiny Tears, it takes me back to my childhood.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
I feel like, do you also feel like, I don't know, playing with dolls and like stuff like that kind of helps kids with their like, or anyone with like their imagination and like
and if it's
side
all
too,
done for them on the computer or the phone, you know, I don't see how they
can develop that
Imagine.
sense of imagination.
And I
that way.
also believe in cursive writing. You know, that
I still kind of remember my school
that
taught
little,
cursive. So
doll right there, the baby doll. Her name was Terry. Is Terry, and I remember playing by myself with my dolls, and just a lot of time spent in my own imagination. And my mother said that I would be in the backyard with friends, and I would be saying, play like this, play like that, which meant make up. You know, you be the mama, you be, the doctor or whatever. Play like, and she said that it sounded like plike, with my...
when it's like the two words combined, basically. Yes.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Yeah, I feel like that can be a really good creative tool for kids, or at least it can help develop people's
You heard of a Mr. Potato Head game?
I've heard of Mr. Potato Head, but I didn't know there was a game for it.
When I was little, it was in a box, and it had, and it didn't have a plastic potato in there. You had to use a real potato.
Oh,
a real
I did
Irish
not realize
potato.
that.
And it had a nose and eyes and ears and a hat, everything with a little stick, and you stick it in the potato. So one day I'd been playing with my Mr. Potato Head, and I put it all back together in the box, potato and all. This is a potato with holes punched in it, closed up in a box, put in the cabinet in the back of the closet.
Yes.
So, I don't know how much time went by, but I went to get my Mr. Potato Head out to play with it. And when I took that box off, I mean, it was heavy. And when I took the box off, it had sprouted. And there were these long white sprouts that were everywhere. And I took the top off, and the sprouts just popped out like this. And Mama was up in the living room. She heard me scream.
It would be kind of scary to see that, yes.
It still scares me to think about it. It looked like worms.
Yes. Yeah, I know I've accidentally forgotten about when I bought my groceries before, and forgotten just that I had a few potatoes in my cabinet. I've gone back and looked, and I've been
oh, and there's no smell worse if they rot.
Yes.
Did you play with dolls?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I have 2 sisters, so that was something that we did a lot.
Did you play Barbies?
Yes.
See, that's interesting to me. My sister played Barbies, but Barbies didn't come along. And there was a gap in there between, she's 4 years younger than me, so I never had Barbies. My dolls were like my children, but that's different. Barbies are like a role model. That's different from you're the mother. You don't think about being Barbie's mother,
I feel like that's how people might use Barbies to be the person they want to be or they want to become later. Yeah.
She's a role model.
Yes, I feel like that's what...
Can you reach it?
Yes, ma'am. I feel like that's what people use her for, is to kind of imagine what they want to be later in life. And the baby dolls might bring out someone's more nurturing side too.
Yeah,
yeah. Your 2 dogs out there, kind of way off topic with this, but do you guys get to do I don't know, go around areas like the Greenway or anything like that with them, or do you do anything fun with your dogs too, you and your wife?
You have to look before you leave at our backyard.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a huge backyard, and they have plenty of running room and everything. And this puppy is new. We had a West Highland Terrier that was 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
Named Cagney, and Cagney and Maddie were big buddies, and Cagney died, and so Cagney was Letha's dog, and so she wanted to get another dog. So I begged her, please, please don't get a puppy. Let's get, this dog is a rescue, but I said, please, let's get Maddie was a 5-year-old breed mama that had been turned over to a shelter.
Okay.
And she was just perfect from the beginning, already housebroken and everything. And this one is a puppy, and she doesn't want to play with Bones. She wants to play with and eye drops, or all the stuff she's
The
not.
most random
Yeah,
things.
and
Yes.
she's getting better. She's 7 months now, and she was 4 months when we got her.
Okay.
So she's getting a little better, but Letha's been frustrated that she didn't listen to me and not get a puppy. There's more to. She said, I can housebreak I said, I can't housebreak a dog. I don't know how. But she said, I can. Well, that didn't work out as good as she thought.
Yeah. I'm also noticing the golden apple behind you. Is that a teacher's award type of thing?
This
too?
is one of the things you get besides the $25,000 when you get the Milken Award.
Okay.
It's called an obelisk, I think.
An obelisk, yes.
Yeah. And then this must have been. I think this may have been Teacher of the Year, Baldwin County Schools, 1990. That was the Baldwin County Schools. So that would have been the second time I got Baldwin County Teacher of the Year.
Okay.
And then,
because I know apples, at least from what I've seen, have been in association with teachers somehow,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of different counties in Georgia may use that type of apple to give out rewards to people.
up here, you see this, I got was also in 2000, inducted into the National Teachers Hall of Fame, which is in Kansas.
Yes.
And they give you, there's this man that makes these replicas of, that's a little one-room schoolhouse. They have a lot of little one-room schoolhouses in Kansas.
Yes.
And this is part of Emporia College in Kansas, which is a teacher's college. And this is their replica of old Baldwin High School. It was a flat roof building. This is what was there before the Bellamy Apartments.
Yes. Oh wow, I didn't. That's pretty cool that they make the models too to give out to y'all.
This one up here, that's a one-room schoolhouse. That's another gift we got for getting National Teacher of the Year.
And you said that you received this in was it
2000,
Kansas?
And it was
The year 2000.
Yeah, and I can't remember. We went out there. With the National Teachers Hall of Fame, we went to Emporia, Kansas, and got an award. We're also, if you go to Emporia, Kansas right now, to the National Teachers Hall of Fame, there'll be a plaque in there that's got my picture on it.
Yes.
That looks like that right there.
That one? Okay.
Yeah. And when we were there, we got all these little replicas, and it was just so cool.
Yes. I think that's...
But also we got sent to Washington, D.C.
Oh, what was that experience
And,
like?
That was wonderful. We had a dinner in this place that was a restaurant that was all cherry wood everywhere, and so my sister went with me, and there was a woman sitting next to me from ASCD, the Association of Supervision and Curriculum. They publish books, and so at that dinner, I was talking about my idea for writing a book on teaching writing. And when I got home, she contacted me. She was an acquisitions editor for ASCD. I didn't know that, but she followed up, and so that was how that book was published.
So that helped you,
ASCD.
that trip to DC helped you publish
it did.
this
That was
book?
the connection.
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's pretty
And,
cool that got to happen through
I know,
that
life
trip.
is so interesting the
Yes.
way there are all these connections, you really feel like God's in charge, of making these things come together. And another thing I remember from that dinner, show you, I was this little small town girl from Georgia. My sister's sitting next to me. She was a little more worldly than me, and they brought us a salad, and we ate the salad. And after that, they brought sorbet.
Yes.
And I thought it was dessert. And I said to Linda, that wasn't a very big meal. She said, shh, that's sorbet. It's supposed to cleanse your palate. I had never heard of that before.
Right.
I didn't grow up where that was a thing.
Yes. I I probably would have done the same exact thing. Probably looked. I mean,
So then we got a
good,
steak and baked potato
Yes.
after that.
I know. I feel like a lot of there's some like manners classes and like cotillion type things that are offered in my hometown. Do you think that was like a lot of people here might have done like cotillion type things or like coming out to society like events?
I wasn't part of that group.
You weren't part of that group, no. Yeah.
So my daddy was a barber, and we were not rich, but we had enough.
Yes, I feel like it's different personality types wouldn't want to like do that either. I know one of my professors is also from Milledgeville and like grew
Who
up
is
here. Dr. Beasley.
Oh yeah,
Nancy Beasley. I think
she was Nancy Ritchie, and she's a little younger than I am, and she and I knew all the same people. Her cousin was my best friend, who was also a bully.
Yeah. Yeah, she had talked about like the cotillion type stuff before, so I wasn't sure like if that was a.
Did she do that?
She said that her family wanted her to do it, but that was just not like her thing. Really, and like
her father was a dentist, and his brother, my best friend's father, was an optometrist, and her mother, her cousin's name Sally, and they lived down the street from me, and her mother would bring all Sally's hand-me-down clothes up to us, and Sally was overweight, and I didn't want to wear Sally's old clothes, but if I ever did, she would tell all our friends in elementary school, city elementary school, Sandra's got on my old skirt.
Yeah, I feel like we did a lot of kids will do that kind of stuff too, because I've had memories of like since I went to Catholic school, I'd wear like a uniform too, and then since there's big families, you pass those down to like other families if you don't wear it anymore, and it'll be like, oh, like that girl's wearing my skirt too. So that's funny that that she was saying that to you as well.
Yeah. Oh, she was awful.
That's honestly kind of funny to hear. But that was that.
And they were Presbyterians.
They were Presbyterians, yes. I know a lot of Presbyterian people too. Like a lot of my friends, I guess, grew up going to that type of church too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of in sociology class, you learn, there are different religions tend to draw different socioeconomic levels. So a lot of the rich people are Presbyterians.
I didn't make that connection, but I can kind of see it through people people I know.
And also probably Episcopalians.
Yeah.
But then Catholic is more eclectic, just a big group.
There's like a big mix of that. I could definitely see that.
Different races and different, socioeconomic groups and everything.
A lot of different cultures and all of that within the group too. Yes. Well, I think I'm gonna at least like stop the recording now. I had a great time like discussing everything with you, and
me too.
Thank you for talking with me today.
Well, I enjoyed it too.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed learning more about the people and historical events connected to Milledgeville and Flannery O'Connor in this episode. If you or someone you know has stories to share related to either of these topics, we'd love to hear them. In addition to documenting community memories, you'll also help us preserve your story for future generations. Visit our website, collectingthepastmilledgeville.wordpress.com, to learn more.